Hey, so welcome to the section on how fake news spreads. And this is so important when we are looking at identifying fake news, because if we know how things spread, and exciting for me and you, there's actually research on this now. A recent study came out from MIT that I'm going to go into their learnings and how we can apply knowing how it spreads to identifying whether it is fake or not. So this study looked at how fake news spread, and it's called The Spread of True and False News Online. Again, this is through the Massachusetts Institute of Technology in the US, and it was published in the journal Science in 2018 and 2018, and the link is below this video. So the bottom line, and I'm sure that we are not entirely surprised, but it's always good to have independent research and a bit of facts on this with numbers. What they found basically was that many more people retweeted the falsehood than the truth. And we'll go into it for a few minutes into what they found in the study. So what they found was, and I'm sure it's not an entire surprise, that false news spread faster. It spread deeper and more broadly than the truth. So by depth and breadth, what they meant was the breadth is how many people saw, like on a surface level, saw an initial share of fake news. And the depth is how many people shared it, and then somebody who saw them shared it, and then somebody who saw that shared it. So it got very deep. It went many people through a chain that way. So clearly, the bottom line is it basically reached more people really quickly. So in terms of numbers, the truth rarely got to over 1,000 people. However, the top 1% of the false news reached up to 100,000 people. So there's a huge discrepancy in the false or fake news and the truth on how it gets shared online. So what they found was, in terms of time, it took the truth about 6 times longer to reach 1,500 people, 6 times longer. And it took the truth 20 times longer to reach a depth of 10 people. So that was somebody saw it and shared it, and somebody saw that share and shared it, and somebody saw that share and shared it. So once that went 10 times, it literally took the truth 20 times longer to get that far as the false news did. So then the question became, who's spreading it? Is it the bots, for example? So initially, we may want to blame bots for things like this because we like to think that people know what we're doing and we're conscious and conscientious of it. So one of the first things I looked at was whether or not it was the bots sharing this news. And they found that it wasn't. The automatic retweeters didn't have the wherewithal to determine fake or real. And they actually spread them both at the exact same rate, which, if you think about it, as a machine programmed to do something, it doesn't have the discernment of our immensely functioning and advanced brains. So it literally shared both fake news and real news at the same rate. So it was not the bots. So then the next question was it a handful of people with huge, massive followings? And that was a question that they wanted to answer. And what they found was it was not a few people with huge followings. Instead, the people who spread the false news had significantly fewer followers, were less often verified accounts, and were less active on Twitter, but they spread the news farther, faster, deeper, and broader. So then the question became, okay, well, if we know it actually does spread faster, farther, deeper, and broader, and we know that it's not bots or a few people with massive followings, it's, regular, everyday people who are on social media, then the question is, we already know what's true and what's false based on facts, but what about this fake and false news was it that made it so spreadable? So what they looked at were things like the novelty of the news and the emotional reactions to it. So what they found was that novelty, something being new or different or interesting, for some way being novel, was a big factor in the spreading of the fake news. The next thing they looked at was the emotions stirred up by these shares on social media. And that was a big point to see what type of emotions are inspired by the different types of news. So this was so fascinating to me. What they actually found was that the widely shared fake news invoked and inspired feelings of fear, of disgust, and of surprise. So people wanted to share news that was new, exciting, and novel, that made them feel afraid, that made them feel disgusted, or was just shocking. And this is such a huge factor. Now we know when it comes to red flags, these are few of the red flags that can be used to spread fake news. On the other hand, the truth inspired feelings of anticipation, of sadness and joy, and of trust. And it wasn't as spreadable nearly as much as things that make people afraid, disgusted, and surprised. So since this study has shown that the bots spread the fake news equally, fake and true news equally, that the spread of fake news was because of our impulses to hit that share button. And what some of the factors that they found that make us want to share this is the novelty and the emotional triggers. So there was a great article about this study done in Vox News, and the link to that is below as well. And what Brian Resnick said about this study was that it's a huge analysis that brings data to bear on the suspicion many have that social media as a platform for news has a bias for the sensational, for the unverified, for the emotional, and for the false. And that's concerning, considering how social media has become a dominant force for news distribution. So to sum up, fake news spreads farther, faster, broader, and deeper than the truth. It is not the bots. It's people like you and I who don't have massive followings, but who love novelty or are interested in novelty, and we have feelings. And the feelings of fear, disgust, and surprise tend to be more shareable than the feelings of anticipation, sadness, joy, and trust. So now that we know some of the key factors that makes fake news so spreadable, it will really help us to identify news that is fake or that is truth. So I will catch you in the next module.